With the release of Triple Drive Booster, we officially has come properly to an end of Overdress era, and in my honest opinion, 2.5 years of Overdress was pretty okay. Like, there are definitely a lowest of the low, especially with Overtrigger and some of the meta currently, but I will have to say a lot of the support has been very well paced, except for some of them. But regardless, I thought it would be nice to actually recount my nostalgia of Overdress and list 10 decks that are my favorite. Of course, since it's my favorite, there's gonna be a number of Dark Stats deck there, and for that I apologize. But regardless, everyone has a different opinion on what are their favorite decks, so do leave down in your comments on what are your favorite 10 decks, and do also leave in the comments if you want me to do any other top 10 video, as it is definitely a format that I do miss, but you know, there's not a lot of interesting topic to cover with the Vanguard at the moment in a top 10 format and everything. So yeah, do leave it down in the comments below, and without further ado, let's get into it. Let's start off with a deck that I do not own physically, and that is Rorowa. Rorowa to me is more of a savior in their days compared to in real life, in the sense that it was a very solid deck that actually able to defeat some of the strongest deck that during the time I'm playing their days on a more regular basis. Even considering the support that they get in the their days since then, it is still a very strong deck. It can take advantage of Trigger disgustingly well. It used one of the strongest engine in the stock here, the token engine, and last but not least, it can play into burst well, but at the same time you can take a step back a bit and play a little bit more sustained build, and it still works perfectly fine. The only reason I have to put this down in the 10th position is because I do not own a physical copy of it, but things might change, especially with Triple Drive Booster release most of the card for quite cheap, but I still need to find inlet, so let's see how. Moving on to number 9, and this is the very first recall deck I do own, and it's still my favorite even if it is not a very good deck right now. Alestiel. Alestiel wing mechanic are fun. Like, I love gimmicky mechanic like this, but the problem I would have to say with the deck is that they make a clear distinction, but they have no intention on combining both wings mechanic onto other units aside from Alestiel. That is a shame, because it would be fun to see a deck that can flip the playstyle or go on full burst when either of the wing is activated or both wing is activated. I thought it would be a very nice mechanic to see. Unfortunately, Michiru has put way too much on the radical plate and easily under support Alestiel. Like, Alestiel is like kind of like a GG of radical in my opinion, and that may be why I like it. Moving on to number 8, and this is also a deck that's suffering from a similar issue, and that is Liael. When Liael was released, it was definitely very good. It has a very strong technicality in the sense that you can populate your field quickly, you can get additional draw every turn, and you hit like a truck. But the problem with the deck, in my opinion, is that it needed way too many pieces in the soul as well as from your deck to actually make it work. Yes, they released a promo that actually help you to lessen that load a lot, but it is still a very troublesome deck to get everything needed nonetheless. Especially, there's not a lot of cards that can help you to set up that soul properly, and that's kind of a shame, because if they give Liael those cards, I can see the deck being a little bit more playable. But regardless, Liael still have a potential, cause they haven't released a proper support for the deck yet. I'm still on copium that they will release winners for this deck.
Do it! Just do it!
Moving on to number 7, and the only collab deck that I physically own, Michael. Okay, so I'm fully aware that Michael is currently one of the most prominent deck in the format right now, but for me, I get it not because of how strong the deck is, but rather because it's Michael, like the band itself. I love Michael as an anime, and they make a deck out of it, and this is coming from a guy who despises the way they handle one shots with the way they handle the lower rarity card. They just took a screenshot from the show or official material or something and just make it into a card. I mean, like, you can see how much effort Michiru put in one shot, and you look at what do with Blue Archive. Like Blue Archive is just hell lot better. I don't mind it takes longer to develop, do it properly. But regardless, I'm willing to put my goal this high, even despite it's low in this list, because I haven't really been using it. I just make it because it is my goal, not really because how strong it is. Though I did switch and try to play it once in a while, I just feel like fighting in the format where my goal is prevalent and encountering way too many mirrors for it is just way too boring for me, and that's why I haven't been using it as much, and that's why it is in 7th place of this list. Moving on to number 6, and we gotta give some respect to the OG Baromagnus. Baromagnus means a lot for me for this channel as well, because a lot of things I do around the channel has been heavily based on Baromagnus. Like you look at my current DP, there is some Baro element into it. You see some of my graphic I use in the channel and the colors and everything is very Dark Stage theme and to an extent Baromagnus theme. And as a deck that has a very similar playstyle to my main clans back in V and G, Drag Irregulars, it makes my transition from V to D really smooth because I really feel at home immediately once I played Baromagnus, and it was a deck I use a lot and has been consistently doing well with it until they decide to give shit tons of shitty support for the Bushiroad. I mean, it is a Eugene of Dark State after all, and despite that, it was able to persist for the longest time. Like, yes, it did get some good cards that actually helps the deck, but over time, when you get way too many bad support, it starts to add up, you know, it's like cavity. The bad support of Baromagnus is the same way here, and that's why I have to leave it in number 6. I will have to say Baro, in my opinion, has easily one of the biggest influence on me as a content creator as well, and I hope they finally give what Baro needed, a new form. Moving on to the top 5, we have, I think this is also many fans' favorite, especially those who watch anime, Bhagra. Bhagra for me has a lot of things going for that I really like. For one, the art is great, especially it feels like a spiritual successor to the Steel Dragon archetype in terms of the art style. I'm kind of half glad that they didn't really bring back the mechanic of Steel Dragon because it wasn't very good, and actually give it another mechanic to stroke up some of the people's nostalgia, Liael with the arms mechanic. It has all the things I really like about like anime style deck, especially with like a weird gimmick kind of pull with Warlord as well. But regardless, it is a very powerful deck, especially if you're considering the fact that Bhagra haven't get a form upgrade of herself after all this time. So yeah, to me, Bhagra was easily my most anime deck out of the 10 decks I have in the. I have in this list. Moving on to number 4, we have a deck that stroked into my secondary main clan that I used back in G and V, and that is Oracle Think Tank Hexaorb. Well, yes, Hexaorb to me it's just Oracle Think Tank in a D format, which is also another reason why it transits very well. Though to me, I think Hexaorb was a very busted deck out of the go, but the only thing that held it back was how badly cost most of her cast effects are. And that changed when her alternate form came out with Aquamarine, and it really makes the deck ridiculous. And the deck was still, in my opinion, it still hold up after all this time. It's just that it's a deck that tested how lucky you are, and I'm not a very good lucky person when it comes to my draw luck in tournament, so I didn't use it as much, but every time I use the deck, it's always a joy to play, even in the tournament or out of the tournament. Then we have the top 3, and I'll say this first. My number 3 entry would have been number 1 if not for the number 1 deck in this list is Chaos. Chaos give me a lot of enjoyment working with it because it is such an open-ended deck, so you can do a lot of things with it. A little bit unfortunate part about it is that because of the fact it is open-ended, Bushiroad trying to play the support around this card too much. Like, they don't want the Chaos to be too strong, so they released a support that either is troublesome to use for Chaos or it just completely doesn't work with the deck, especially with a lot of the Soul Blast cards. But regardless, Chaos was a very strong deck, and I do still think it is a strong deck provided you are really lucky. So yeah, the only reason Hexaorb and Chaos are not any higher in this list is because of the luck factor, which is, some people might say skill issue, but I'll put it this way. It has been proven that my luck in tournament wasn't very good, so deal with it. Moving on to the top 2. This is a deck that I think a lot of people will say overrated. Why you like this deck? But for me, it's just that I used to like its mechanic from the start. I hate how clunky it was when it was released, and even after it get at least like 2 to 3 major supports, and only when it was released in DBT 13 that I actually fully enjoyed the deck properly is Drao. Drao has a very fun mechanic of Soul Blast different grades, and to me it is a minimum enough of the gimmick, but it was held back by the fact that it is super clunky, and a lot of cards in Dark State doesn't really play around his playstyle very well without some kind of heavy cost. Like Sargon is good card to play in Drao, but it has to be hit. Falcate is a free card, but it restricts how often you can soul charge. So yeah, like a lot of card that was released when Drao just came out has a way too many restrictions to make it actually useful, especially if you're considering decks like Eva and everything during the time. But with Ignis release, things changed because, you know, Ignis literally just fill up 40% of his cost on his own, making refueling everything else a lot easier. And not only that, Dark State had a lot better unit pool that actually plays well with Drao with cards like Empusa and Falcracia. So overall, I would have to say it takes a while for Drao, but finally he gets a meta that he deserves, and I'll be honest, I'm still enjoying playing him after he slowly but surely getting power crept by some of the newer decks in the format right now. And last but not least, number 1 deck in this list, it is a deck that I would have to say did get heavily power crept within one booster, but I do have to say that it has everything that I want from a deck, and that is Ominagruzio. Ominagruzio to me hits right in the middle with the gimmickiness of the Dark States and the technicalityness of the decks like Chrono Jet, and it managed to hit in the middle while still putting in some anime element with mass mechanic. And yeah, it is easily one of my favorite decks. It does a lot, which is music to my ear. It is actually hit decently well with the 3-stand and everything, and it has easily one of the fun mechanic to see in the format, shield minusing. Like I'll say this now. Even with the defensive creep that will be coming to Vanguard soon, I hope, Omina to me I think will more or less be relevant for at least a while because of the fact that it is capable of shutting down a lot of things. So it is capable enough as a tempo deck. It's just a little bit unfortunate that it was released in the time where tempo deck is about to be dead. But regardless, it is definitely my favorite deck. So yeah, that is my top 10 decks from Overdress era. But take care of yourself, and this is Mac Megane signing out.